Why we do not want to forgive. Many people, if they had a say in it, would tell God to drop this commandment, because forgiveness is one of the most challenging of God's commandments to obey. Why is it so difficult to forgive? Why should we release someone who has hurt us so badly? Why should we say, "You are forgiven"? Why should we let them go? Well, when we know why it is difficult to forgive, it will be easier to understand why it is important to do it. The beginning of treatment is identifying the root cause of the ailment so that we can find a cure for it. Now I want to look at some of the reasons why it is difficult to forgive and then find a solution to it. Reason number 1. We do not want to forgive because we do not know what God has said about forgiveness. Many of us, we know that we need to forgive. We have heard it on the pulpit, on the streets, and even our parents have taught us to forgive. And we grew up with this notion that we should forgive. However, many people do not know that this particular commandment to forgive originated not with man, but with God. It is God who has issued that commandment. It is God who said that we must forgive. Hence, one of the reasons why we do not want to forgive is lack of the knowledge that the highest authority in our lives has issued the commandment that we forgive. And so, we forgive simply because we respect God. We forgive because God had said it. Mark 11 verse 25, Jesus Christ taught, he said, "And when ye stand praying, forgive, if ye have aught against any, that your Father also, which is in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses." The second reason why we do not want to forgive is because the offender does not acknowledge our hurts or has a desire to apologize to us. We find it difficult to forgive someone who refuses to acknowledge that they have hurt us. For example, how can I forgive someone who does not understand the pain that they have caused me by their action? It adds insult into injury when they do not understand. The sense of justice within me demands that they should feel the pain that we feel. And then also, the offender may refuse to apologize. We don't know why they do not want to apologize. Maybe their pride prevents it. We demand that they should apologize so that it will be easier for us to forgive them. You know something? Jesus Christ understands this very well. In fact, he expects the one who injures us to make it right, to apologize. He says, for example, that if your offender, after having hurt you, brings his or her gift to the altar and expects God to either accept it or to give him something, Jesus Christ said the person must leave their gift at the altar and go and make it right with you. Jesus said in Matthew 5 verse 23, said, "Therefore, if you bring thy gift to the altar, and there remember that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift." And so, when somebody hurts us and do not apologize for their action, just leave the justice in the hands of the God of justice. He said that vengeance is his, not ours. Remember that Jesus Christ himself did not expect or did not wait on the Pharisees to come kneeling before him and asking for the forgiveness of their sins, even, at the cross. The key idea is to remember that God is judge. If a man refuses to apologize to you, determine not to put the judgment of that man in your hands and withhold your forgiveness. Forgive him. Reason number 3 why we do not want to forgive. The offender points out to you what you did to him or her. There are times when somebody hurt you, and following the injunction of the Lord himself, you go and point out to him what he did. It was so obvious. Perhaps your friend embarrassed you in front of people who hold you in high esteem. and you felt humiliated. When you confront him with this, rather than apologize, he now brings up an occasion where you hurt him or her. The idea is to shift focus from his own actions to yours. In essence, he has now become the offended and you become the offender. You might apologize if what he or she says has some merit to it. Still, you have to forgive. Even if the person refuses to forgive after trying to settle this with him, you confess it out in the privacy of your room that you release him. Do not allow his action to stand in your way of doing what is right, and that is forgiving him. If he apologizes to you, all the better. Sometimes the way you are handling his accusation may prick his conscience, and he will come to you feeling sorry and even embarrassed for his action. Psalms 111 verse 10 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever." Reason number 4. We hurt. How can I forgive the one who hurt me so badly? The one who is responsible for the emotional pain I'm going through. Oh, how it hurts. The pain of betrayal, or the pain of being jilted by the one whom you have poured out the love of your heart, or the pain of facing the man who murdered your husband, or the man who raped your child. There are various levels of pain. Some are great and we think we could never forgive. Some are smaller but constant. They come every day. But you know something? Forgiveness is still to be given even when we hurt. Yes, forgiveness is not easy when we hurt, but actually the secret to your healing, the secret to relief of emotional pain is to forgive. How? You disconnect yourself. It's disconnection. When you forgive someone, you are letting go what they did, and in letting them go, you are letting yourself go. You are free from that pain because you no longer see them as an offender. You no longer see the offense. You have let go of the offense, and it is the offense that causes the pain. So when you forgive, you let go that offense and you let go the pain. Psalm 147:3 says, "He healeth the broken in heart and bindeth up their wounds." Reason number 6. We look stupid when we forgive. We feel that the person who hurt us will think that we are stupid. We find it difficult because the offender thinks that he is smart and we are foolish. That hurts. For example, maybe he denied you of your promotion by convincing your boss to pass you up and choose someone else for the post. And here you are. You are called to forgive by God himself. He is wrong. He has acted irresponsibly, and he thinks that by putting you in a corner, he has won the battle and you have lost. Do not be discouraged. Just remember that the only win or loss that matters is the case that you win before the divine court. If the divine court justifies you and you still forgive, your reward will be great before the God who rewards. He will not overlook your decision to honor him even when the going is rough. When Jesus Christ, for example, was crucified, to the human eye, he was a failure. His work had been aborted, but not to the spiritual world. God accepted his sacrifice on our behalf. His blood, once shed, became the means of our salvation and our redemption. His death accomplished his mission here on earth. Jesus Christ did not allow the Pharisees' view that they had won to diminish his view of his mission here on earth. So, do not let the opinion of man deter you from forgiving your offender. Reason number 7 why we do not want to forgive. We feel that we can be taken for granted. Forgiveness is difficult when we are taken for granted. Our offender hurt us the first time and we forgive him or her. Then he wrongs us again and we forgive again. The third time he does something else, and like previous times we forgive. The offender sees a pattern emerging. A good person will appreciate the Christian attitude and try to emulate us or try to be nice and do his best not to hurt us again. But others see an opportunity to take advantage of our generosity. They begin to take us for granted. Yet we read in the scriptures that we are supposed to forgive 70 times 7. So the question now arises, should we continue to forgive while being hurt repeatedly, or refuse to forgive and teach our offender a lesson that they will not forget? According to the scriptures, neither is a good option. Once again, commit the judgment to God. Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 8 says, "If thou seest the oppression of the poor, and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter. For he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they." I just want to say that God has not called us to be abused again and again. We cannot even take it. It is not the will of God. God sees all and He's ready to fight for you. However, God expects us to take some steps to avoid the abuse of our offender. Proverbs 4:7 tells us that wisdom is a principal thing and says that we should get wisdom. For example, if somebody borrowed money from you and does not pay it back, the next time he comes, it may not be wise to loan him more money. You may give him what you can afford. Or another scenario is this, maybe sharing your deep intimate prayer points with your friend, and takes a prayer point and recklessly shares it with other believers. Well, you should forgive her, but you should be careful not to share your confidential requests with her. Amos 3:3 says, "Can two walk together except they be agreed?" Reason number 8, we are living with the consequences. I believe that living with the consequences of the offense could prove to be one of the most stubborn roadblocks to forgiving. An offense took something from your life that cannot be replaced. In some cases, only time, sometimes years, can replace it. In some cases, not even time could. It is difficult, for example, to forgive someone that you gave the power of attorney to oversee your finances. He, without your knowledge or consent, mismanaged your funds and absconded with the rest. All the money saved sacrificially for your retirement is now gone. How do you get past that? Or how do you release or forgive the person who damaged part of your body through reckless driving, drunk driving, or drive-by shooting? For example, in my own case, how can I forget the man who killed my husband and my 3 children? The Bible says that we have even to forgive. I believe that God knows how to compensate you for the irreparable loss. Today, when I think of how my story and my book, His Beauty for My Ashes, based on my experience, has brought so much joy to the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, my heart rejoices. Those who have, for example, lost their loved ones, be it their children or their spouses or their friends, they have been emotionally revitalized after reading my book. To them, the God who healed my broken heart and bound up my wound can do the same thing for them. Courage rises out of their deepest despair that the God who did that for someone else can do it for them. Or God, in His own wisdom, can bring something good out of it. Joseph chose not to look at the consequences of what his brothers did to him. He had a choice to be angry for losing so many years in pain and degradation because his brothers sold him into slavery. He had a choice to be angry with them forever, but he chose to forgive. And in fact, he felt that God had a reason for allowing what they did to him take place. I had a choice to stay in my anger with James for making me childless and a widow, but I have chosen not to. I know that my Redeemer liveth, and I know that there is a reason for everything, and God has brought out good out of it. Romans 8 verse 28 says, And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Reason number 9 why we do not want to forgive is because we feel that the person is getting away with it. Far from it. Just because you forgive does not mean that God has forgiven them. It does not mean that the offender will not pay for his offenses, especially if he refuses to repent. You see, in forgiving, we are releasing the God of justice to do his work. He is the judge of the whole earth. God exercises justice here on earth. There are penalties or consequences for actions. God may not come down physically to punish, but he has his agents to do that. Jesus Christ understood this concept when he had to pray to God that God should forgive those who are nailing him to the cross. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's Luke 23 verse 24. Of course, when we forgive, we are not concerned about God punishing them, because that means that we have not forgiven. To want God to punish them is indicative of the fact that you have not forgiven. In James' case, I remember when I forgave him, I no longer wished God to deal with him after forgiving him. The forgiveness had erased in my heart a desire for retaliation. Nobody is getting away with anything. God will have to take care of it. They are answerable to God, and he's a God of recompenses. Number 10, we rationalize why he or she offended us. Yes, we are ready to forgive, but sometimes we are unable to get past rationalizing why our offender did what they did in the first place. Why did they do it at all? What were they thinking? How could someone get behind the steering wheel and drive and kill my family? How could my bosom friend betray me in such a nasty way? What was he or she thinking? Or how could your mother allow your father to molest you and be quiet about it? Or how could someone take money and refuse to take it back, knowing your condition? How? It is difficult sometimes to get past the reason for their action in the first place. Do not get caught up in the hows and in the whys. There are some things that we may not understand. Human plans and actions run deeper than our human comprehension. Ours is to let go without trying to rationalize why. To release, to pardon with the grace of God. We are to allow the love of God to pardon one who did not think through their actions before performing them. Well, in conclusion, these are some reasons that have been advanced that could potentially discourage you or block you from forgiveness. Others definitely must exist, but just remember that your desire to obey God supersedes all these reasons why we do not want to forgive. It supersedes your comfort zone, as it were. These reasons must not stop us from forgiving. We choose to take the higher road. Jesus Christ endured so much pain for our salvation. The secret for his undaunted and dogged determination was the joy of seeing our salvation. You too, hold on to your decision to obey God, because by forgiving, you are going to receive the blessings of God, your Father. Hebrews 12 verse 2 says, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. God bless you.